A handsome Air Force vet marries a single mom and helps raise her teenage son.
To him, this was his family. He was very protective of them.
Until the day mother and son mysteriously vanish.
I knew something had to be wrong.
What looks like a picture-perfect family is actually a house of secrets.
What if the perfect neighbor you trust is hiding a dark secret?
Tonight, police say there is no new information in the case. But in that time, neighbors say crime in the area has shot up.
When a seemingly flawless man begins acting strangely.
Tonight, a Spring neighborhood concerned by the few details released about a double murder investigation. Now, a man and woman were found shot to death inside their home.
A couple uncovers a chilling truth buried deep in his backyard. You won't believe what they find. Don't miss this shocking revelation! Perfect neighbor for years, the Johnsons had always been on good terms with their neighbor, Mr. Edwards. He was the kind of person you could always count on. He helped with yard work, picked up groceries for the elderly, and even volunteered at local events. Everyone in the neighborhood trusted him. His reputation as the perfect neighbor was solidified with each passing day. His charming smile, friendly demeanor, and willingness to lend a hand made him seem like the ideal neighbor anyone would wish for. Whether it was a simple conversation about the weather or offering assistance with household chores, Mr. Edwards was always there. His house, too, stood as a model of neatness and order. The lawn was impeccably trimmed, the windows clean, and the garden filled with vibrant flowers. He was the kind of person people would talk about positively, almost as if he were too good to be true. But little did anyone know, behind the facade of kindness and trust, something much darker was brewing in his life. Hidden past despite his perfect image, there were things about Mr. Edwards that no one ever thought to question. He had always kept his past a secret, and nobody bothered to dig too deep. He never talked about his family, where he grew up, or how he ended up in the neighborhood. His personal life was a mystery. Over the years, a few neighbors had tried to learn more about him, but every conversation was skillfully deflected. Mr. Edwards was always quick to change the subject, keeping his private life under wraps. But as time went on, some of the residents began to notice odd things. Strange phone calls at late hours, the occasional car that seemed to linger near his house, and sometimes the sound of muffled arguments behind his door. No one dared to confront him, of course. After all, he was the guy who helped them with everything. He was their trusted neighbor. It was easy to overlook these small details because Mr. Edwards had earned their trust. But the truth was there, hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. What could he possibly be hiding, and why? Growing suspicion one rainy evening, something happened that would set the wheels of suspicion in motion. Sarah, a young mother who lived 2 doors down from Mr. Edwards, noticed an unfamiliar car parked outside his house. It wasn't the first time she had seen strange vehicles near his property, but this time, something felt different. The car was an old, rusty model, and the windows were slightly tinted, making it hard to see who was inside. As Sarah walked past his house, she noticed the lights flickering in his living room. The curtains were drawn tightly shut, but there was an eerie sense of activity in the air. She thought she heard voices arguing, but it was hard to tell from outside. She told herself it was probably nothing, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, Sarah bumped into Mrs. Miller, an elderly neighbor who lived on the other side of Mr. Edwards' house. Mrs. Miller whispered in a low voice, "Have you ever noticed how quiet it's been over at his place? No one ever comes or goes anymore." The comment stuck with Sarah, and she started paying closer attention to Mr. Edwards. Over the next few days, she saw him acting strangely, looking over his shoulder as he stepped outside, glancing nervously at the neighbors. Her gut told her that something was wrong, and she couldn't ignore it any longer. The discovery one afternoon, curiosity got the best of Sarah. She had to know what was going on behind those closed doors. Armed with nothing more than her instincts, she decided to take a closer look. She'd been noticing a series of unusual events around Mr. Edwards' house for weeks, but this time she felt it was time to act. Sarah waited until dusk when the neighborhood was quieter. She casually walked her dog past Mr. Edwards' house, trying to appear nonchalant, but her eyes were constantly scanning the windows, the driveway, and anything else that might give her a clue. Then, she saw it. Just as she passed his front gate, she noticed something strange sticking out from behind the garage. A large, old trunk, the kind used for storage. But what caught Sarah's attention was the dirt piled on top of it. It didn't look like something Mr. Edwards would leave in his well-kept yard. She felt a cold chill creep up her spine as she continued to stare at it. Unable to shake the feeling, Sarah decided to act on her growing suspicion. She told her husband Tom about the trunk, and they decided to investigate together. That night, under the cover of darkness, they quietly approached Mr. Edwards' house. They didn't want to confront him just yet. They needed proof. They snuck around the back and peered through a small gap in the fence. What they saw next made their blood run cold. Mr. Edwards was standing in the yard, his back turned to them, dragging the trunk across the ground. He was burying something. Shocking truth, the sight of Mr. Edwards burying something in his backyard was enough to send Sarah and Tom into a panic. They quickly retreated, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Their hearts raced, and they spent the entire night trying to make sense of what they had seen. What was in that trunk? Why was Mr. Edwards burying it? The next morning, Sarah couldn't shake the image from her mind. She decided to go to the police. It was a difficult choice, but she knew she couldn't ignore what they had witnessed. The authorities arrived later that afternoon, and with Sarah and Tom's help, they began investigating Mr. Edwards' backyard. When they dug up the area where the trunk had been buried, what they found was horrifying. Inside the trunk were multiple items that appeared to be remnants of old, personal belongings, clothes, photographs, and papers. But it didn't stop there. The deeper they dug, the more unsettling the discovery became. They found traces of blood and signs of a struggle. As the police continued their investigation, they uncovered even more disturbing facts about Mr. Edwards' past. It turned out that he had once been involved in several criminal activities in different cities, but had managed to escape the law's grasp, constantly changing his identity. He had moved to this quiet neighborhood under an assumed name, hiding from the people he had hurt. Mr. Edwards, the trusted neighbor, had been hiding a dark secret all along, a secret that no one could have ever guessed. Aftermath, the news of Mr. Edwards' arrest sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. People couldn't believe that the man they had trusted for so long was capable of such dark deeds. The once friendly neighbor they had shared meals with, borrowed tools from, and confided in was a criminal hiding in plain sight. As the investigation unfolded, more details about his past came to light. He had been connected to several unsolved disappearances in different cities, leaving behind a trail of victims who had never been found. The trunk, buried in his backyard, contained items that were once owned by those who had vanished. It was clear that Mr. Edwards had been using his charm and reputation to divert suspicion away from his dark activities. The community was left reeling. How could they have missed the signs? How could they have trusted someone so completely? People started questioning everything they knew about their neighbors, wondering if anyone else was hiding a secret. In the weeks following Mr. Edwards' arrest, Sarah and Tom found it difficult to move past the experience. They had unearthed something they could never forget, something that had shattered their sense of security. As for Mr. Edwards, his fate was sealed. He faced multiple charges for his crimes, and the neighborhood would never be the same again. The perfect neighbor had turned out to be nothing more than a man with a hidden darkness, and the community's trust had been forever broken. If you thought this story couldn't get any darker, think again. Hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts. What would you do if you uncovered a neighbor's terrifying secret? And don't miss our next video. She escaped the killer and revealed the full story. Coming soon!